Ladies and gentlemen, welcome today to another predictions video on the channel. We are setting up for our Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead-Miami Speedway today for the NASCAR Cup Series, the third race of the season already. We've had two first-time winners in the first two races of the year, with Michael McDowell winning the Daytona 500 and Christopher Bell winning on the Daytona Road Course last week. Without further ado, I'm going to hop on into my predictions for today's race, but first we need to take a look at the starting lineup. Starting lineup for today's race, we've got Denny Hamlin on the pole. Interesting fact with that, Denny Hamlin has actually now started on the pole for 4 straight races at Homestead once today's green flag drops, and 5 of the last 6 races he has started on the pole at Homestead. So interesting fact there. I know they didn't qualify for this race or last year's race. It was a random draw for both of them. But what luck Hamlin has had at Homestead, at least with the starting positions he has had. And row number 1 outside of him, it's Joey Logano. Logano has probably been the closest to winning each of the first 2 races of the year. He was leading coming to 2 laps to go in last week's race at the Daytona Road Course before Bell was able to get around him, with Bell having fresh tires, and then of course leading on the final lap of the Daytona 500 before being involved in a big accident in turn 3. In row number 2, we got last week's winner Christopher Bell, and one of the favorites I think for today's races we'll see here in a couple moments, Kevin Harvick. Michael McDowell trying to go for 3 straight top 10s. He is starting outside of row number 3. Kurt Busch, who has had a definitely interesting start to the year, he'll be on the inside. Keselowski, he has been running fairly well. At least didn't look like he was running well last week. Still finished 5th, and then obviously he was up there at the front of the field in the Daytona 500. It was actually 2nd on the final lap before again getting involved in a wreck with his teammate on the final lap there. Martin Truex Jr. has had a pretty decent start to the year. He is starting in row 5. Cole Custer, outside of him, he has been quiet so far through the first 2 races. A guy to watch, though, coming from the back is going to be Tyler Reddick. He is starting from 37th, or sorry, looks like because there's only 38 entries today, he'll be starting from 35th. So watch out for Tyler Reddick as we'll hop on into our prediction picks now for today's races to give you guys my fantasy advice. So an interesting one here today. We're going to start off with the sleeper picks. We usually don't go that route, so why not try something new? We have our sleeper picks. We have 3 of them for today's race at Homestead-Miami Speedway, and we're going to start things off with Kyle Larson. I think he's probably the more obvious sleeper pick for today's race. Larson's been really fast this season, both in the Daytona 500. He was able to run close or right around the top 10 for most of the race. Actually got the top 10 by the end of the race, and then also at the Daytona Road Course was in 2nd. It looked like he was going to be in position to win, and not Christopher Bell in that last restart until he overdrove. I forget what turn that is. I believe it's turn 7, getting back up onto the oval. So tough break for Larson there. Ruined a good shot at getting a win, but he's going to one of his best racetracks, and here are the stats for him at Homestead. Kyle Larson in the races from 2016 to 2018, those 3 races, led 322 laps out of 801. So that is a very, very good factor. He's got 3 top 5s as well in the last 5 races he has ran there. Again, he did not run last year at Homestead due to his suspension, but he is back this year. So he has not ran at Homestead with this package since 2019, although he didn't run too well at the finish in that race. He did finish in the top 3 in both stages in that race. So he's running up front towards the very first 2 stages, but then at the end he kind of faltered. A lot of that, though, was because of an issue. I can't remember what that issue was, but I do remember he was up at the front. I believe his pit crew might have made a mistake on pit road. Not entirely sure on that. So we're going to leave that out of here. But regardless of the fact, he's got 3 top 5s in that stretch of races. And actually, an interesting fact as well, going with the stages, he's got 2 stage wins. Remember, stages were implemented in 2017. He did not race in 2020. So therefore, there were only 3 races he has raced at Homestead with stages, and he has not finished worse than 3rd. So count on Kyle Larson, who has at least a decent starting spot. He's not in the top 10 for the start of today's race, but I think he can contend for stage points, and a lot of them today, even if he doesn't find his way to victory lane. And who knows, maybe he'll end up getting that top 5 here this season. Maybe a little bit of redemption for what he had at the Daytona Road Course last week. The next guy I'm going to talk about is going to be Austin Dillon. Actually, 2 RCR cars I think are going to be sleeper picks for today's race, but we'll start off with the less obvious one. Austin Dillon has scored 5 straight top 12 finishes at Homestead-Miami Speedway coming into today's race. I'm sure a lot of you guys didn't know that. 3 of which are top 10s, and not only that, but in the last 2 races, which are the only 2 races with this 550 horsepower package, the high downforce that we use on the intermediates, that not Kyle Larson, but that Austin Dillon has ran. He finished 7th and 8th in last 2 races here, so last year and then 2019. So 7th and 8th, that's pretty good. Austin Dillon has actually looked pretty good this season, finished 3rd in the Daytona 500. He won the dual race, so he had a good speed week. So then last week at the Daytona Road Course, actually held his own in stage 1. Obviously, he had problems late, which faltered him to finish outside the top 30. But he was exceeding my expectations up until that point. So Austin Dillon, I think, is a sleeper to watch out for here today. He ran well last year there, and I think both RCR cars are going to run well here today. And Tyler Reddick is the final sleeper pick. We just mentioned he is starting towards the back of today's race, but Tyler Reddick almost won the Xfinity Series race yesterday, and he has 2 Xfinity wins at this track. So in the last 3 Xfinity starts, he's finished 2nd or better if you do the math. Not only that, he finished 4th last season here. Was probably his best race from start to finish in his rookie season. And if it wasn't for him, obviously, getting out of the gas on the final lap of the race, thinking it was the end of the race, then, he would have finished even closer. He still would have finished 4th, but he would have been within 2 seconds of the race lead. And Reddick was pretty much up there throughout. He scored a lot of stage points. So I look for Tyler Reddick to be a good pick for your fantasy teams here today. We'll go into the don't haves now for today's race, and we're going to start off with Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch in the last 7 races at Homestead-Miami Speedway only has 2 top 10s to show for, with his best finish of 8th place in those 7 races. Just not a strong pick. Honestly, he was the most confident don't have I have coming into this one when I was doing my research on Racing Reference, that Kurt Busch just hasn't had a great track record here over the last just over half a decade. Kurt Busch last season did not finish well here, neither the season before that. So both races, with this 550 horsepower package, he has finished outside the top 10. I don't expect him to run particularly well here today. So don't have Kurt Busch in your lineup for today's race. Chase Briscoe's the next guy. I know a lot of people seem to be a little high on Chase Briscoe with him being a rookie, and you guys know from last season that might have watched these predictions videos. I'm not sold on rookies with your fantasy team if you can help it. I know Briscoe won at Homestead-Miami Speedway last year, but in 4 Xfinity Series races at this racetrack, he only led 25 laps. He led 11 in the race he won. I know a win is a win, but he is not really up front leading a lot of laps, so I don't consider him a good threat to win today's race by any stretch of the imagination. And the other race they ran here last year, he didn't lead a single lap and finished 8th. So I don't really know if Chase Briscoe is going to perform well. I did some research on the 14 car that was kind of debunked a little bit, because Clinton Boyer did in this race car finish in the top 10 last year at Homestead, but they're not the same driver. And again, that rookie experience in the Cup Series, again, guys, it's so crucial that it is such a big jump from Xfinity to Cup. And we're seeing that more and more, obviously, over the last decade. But with no practice or qualifying going on for this weekend, that's only going to hurt Chase Briscoe's chances of running well. We saw rookie Tyler Reddick run well, but he's had a lot better success than what Chase Briscoe has. So although a lot of people might consider Chase Briscoe as a sleeper pick, I'm going to consider him as a don't have. Do not put Chase Briscoe in your fantasy lineups for today's race. So now we're going to hop on in to my picks, my 3 picks for drivers that are must-haves for your lineup as well as mine here today if you're playing fantasy. So Denny Hamlin is going to be the first on that list. He's probably the most obvious, winning here in 2020 last season with this said package, and he led over 100 laps in that race. Definitely had one of the more dominant cars, if not the most dominant car, and he finished the job at the end of the night. Now for Denny Hamlin as well, his track record goes a little bit better further back than that. In the last 8 races for Denny Hamlin at Homestead-Miami Speedway, he has 7 top 10s and 2 wins in that stretch, again, including 2020. He is starting on the pole in today's race due to his recent success and obviously having that better advantage with the pill draw or the random draw that they have been doing for the races without practice or qualifying. So Denny Hamlin, it's definitely high on the radar for looking at a chance to win. According to the Vegas sportsbooks, he's at 5-1 odds, which is pretty good. And also he has, I wouldn't say the best odds, but he is the favorite to win today's race. Kyle Busch is the next guy on that list. Kyle Busch's recent success at Homestead-Miami Speedway is pretty absurd as well. He has 2 wins at this racetrack in the last 6 races. In those 6 races, he has 4 top 5s and 6 top 10. So he has not finished outside the top 10 in the last 6 Homestead races. And again, 2 wins, 4 top 5s in that stretch. Kyle Busch, I am completely sold on him to run well today. He was running good at the Daytona road course. Obviously, he won the Clash, but then last week he was running pretty well until obviously freak accident late. Well, I wouldn't say freak accident, but it was an accident exiting the front stretch chicane late while he was running in the top 10. That was after he was trying to come from behind and got all the way up to 3rd place at one point after running in the grass in lap 1, damaging the splitter. So Kyle Busch has had very fast race cars. He finished, or looked like he was going to finish well in the Daytona 500 until he got in that wreck on the last lap of the race. He was in the top 10 there as well. So Kyle Busch has had a pretty strong start to the season, just haven't gotten the finish that he probably deserves. So look for Kyle Busch to contend for a win here today. And the last guy on this list is probably my favorite to win today's race, and that man is Kevin Harvick. Harvick ran well on the 550 horsepower racetracks last season. We all know that he had 9 wins. One of those races, though, he did not run well in the 550 package was this racetrack. That is the only concern, I guess, with that. Harvick's worst finish last year was 26, and it was at this very racetrack as well as another racetrack. He had 2 26th place finishes. But leaving that aside, his success at this racetrack and even with this package is pretty good. Back in 2019, he had a strong run and finished in the top 5 that day, finishing 4th. So I look for Kevin Harvick to have a pretty good day here today as well. In the last, I should say, let's just go this route. In 20 career races at Homestead for Kevin Harvick, he has 17 top 10s, 11 top 5s. Yes, he only has 1 win to show for, and that was when he won the championship in 2014. But again, the guy runs very consistently at this racetrack. That is insane. In 20 races at one racetrack, for him not to finish outside the top 10 more than 3 times, that is insane. His average finish at Homestead is 7.4. That is ridiculous. That's very close to what he average finish the entirety of last season, and putting the success he had last year with this package on certain racetracks, as well as his success at this racetrack throughout his career, the entirety of his career in general. I look for Kevin Harvick to contend for the win, and I'm going to go not with maybe the favorite today of Denny Hamlin, but I'm going to take Kevin Harvick to win today's race. So although I'm not going too out on the limb because it is Kevin Harvick and he has had a strong start to the season, I look for Kevin Harvick to have another great run here today and get into victory lane. Thanks for everybody watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. We do these predictions and post-race analysis videos every week, and every day we do full race live streams with NASCAR video games. We are also going to be live streaming the Homestead-Miami Speedway race today, just like we did for the Daytona Road Course last Sunday, so I'll be doing a realistic broadcast there. So hop on the YouTube stream when you get a chance, hit that like button as well during the course of the stream. Join in the chat as well. We had a lot of fun last week. We will have a lot of fun this week. And also the last plug is join the Fantasy League. Again, log on to the NASCAR mobile app or website, sign up on the fantasy portion with your email and search KRC League and hit join for your chance to appear on the weekly. If you win any certain week, you have the opportunity. If you want, we had a subscriber decline who won last week. You can decline, but if you want to, like Patrick Shadley was able to do, hop on in to the predictions video for next week. If you can win this week, I will interview you over Zoom earlier in the week. So it'll be a lot of fun. We could talk NASCAR there for a little bit as well. And that's pretty much it. Again, like, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys for post-race analysis video later, and I'll catch you next time.